Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the Avengers episode 23. It is time for Dead of Winter. Let me just confirm. Dead of Winter. It's episode 23. Once we've done this one, there's 3 episodes to go. My aim is to finish it by the end of the year so that when I come back in January, boom, I can start series 2. This will be the last Avengers you get before my 31 uploads in 31 days on Patreon. So I hope you enjoy. I'm ready to wrap series 1 up now. I think not saying that I don't enjoy it, not saying I'm not going to carry on enjoying these episodes, but I'm just ready to dive into episodes. That's just, it's almost like someone's teasing me, with a series, and it's like I just need to get on with it now because it's been a year, over a year of me watching the Avengers. So it's time to crack on. Dead of Winter. I am assuming this came out in winter because at the beginning of the recons they tell you the date that it aired, and every time I hope that it's going to be the date that I'm watching. I think that happened a couple of times with the classic hero, that I ended up watching an episode on the date that it originally aired. So, Dead of Winter. Just gonna be a murder in winter, isn't it? Just make a good book title, that. Right, let's go. Ah, 9th of December. So close. So close.
The San Palma, a refrigerator ship from Argentina carrying a consignment of prime frozen beef, has arrived at the London docks. As the meat is being unloaded to a cold storage shed, a dock worker notices something strange. One of the sacks doesn't feel right. He is instructed to open it. As he tears at the cloth, the face of an icy human corpse is revealed.
Dead of Winter. Written by Eric Pace, produced by Leonard White, and directed by Don Lever.
At the public mortuary, John Steed reads the Shipping Gazette as he waits for fellow Avenger David Keel, who he has called away from his morning surgery.
Oh, I love that, fellow Avenger.
Keel arrives, upset at Steed's sense of timing. Steed explains that there is a corpse that he wants him to examine as a matter of urgency and leads him into the mortuary. Inside, they meet Dr. Brennan, a police surgeon who Keel remembers from his university days. The pleasantries are brief, however, as they soon come to the body on the slab, the man found at the docks the previous night. Brennan explains that an autopsy will not be possible for at least 10 hours, as the body is still 10 degrees below freezing. He cannot tell the time of death, but Steed has a theory. If I may hazard a guess, I put it at 2 weeks and 5 days ago, the time of departure of the San Palma from Argentina, says Steed, indicating his copy of the Shipping Gazette. Steed leaves Keel with Brennan and arranges to meet later.
Yeah, but that's going to be hard to find out who's done it.
The young man, Billy, silently follows him. Later, with Keel out delivering a baby, Steed has the surgery to himself. He meets there with Inez, a fashionably dressed South American, and shows her a photograph of the dead man. He asks if she is certain of the man's identity. "Quite sure," Inez replies firmly. "I had him under close watch in Buenos Aires until 4 weeks ago when he disappeared. We knew he was trying to get to Europe, but who could expect him to leave the country in that way? And dead," exclaims the South American. Inez explains that Webster's, the meat importer, have had an office in Buenos Aires for 3 years. Steed adds that Webster's real name is in fact Weber, and that someone called Dr. King has made a suspicious number of flights to and from South America of late. Steed believes Dr. King is in reality a man called Kreutzer, a brilliant doctor who worked for the Nazis in the war. Kiel arrives and learns that the corpse in the mortuary is that of Hans Gerhard Schneider, a Nazi war criminal living in exile in Argentina. Schneider was to set up a paramilitary organization in Europe for the neo-Nazi group Phoenix, which would return the Nazis to power, but the plan had failed. Schneider did not survive the journey to Europe. Steed offers to take Inez to the airport from where she is to fly home. Later on, Willi meets with Weber at his doc's office. Weber is angry with Willi for allowing Schneider to be taken to the public mortuary. He was to collect the body, but had been held up in traffic. Suddenly, Weber notices someone suspicious outside. He grabs his field glasses and takes a look. It is Steed. Outside, the dock workers are moving carcasses of meat across the wharf to the shed. Weber approaches one of them, Harry, who explains that Steed is a customs man. Weber doubts this and confronts Steed, introducing himself as the importer of the meat. "And last night's, was that yours as well?" asks Steed archly. "You mean the body?" asks Weber. Why anyone should have selected our consignment to dump a body is a complete mystery. Steed ascertains from Weber that the carcasses usually weigh about 140 pounds. 10 stone, about the weight of a man, Steed comments. With Weber, Steed questions Harry, the dock's foreman. Harry turns out to be evasive and unhelpful. Steed
Well, he knows
decides to call
something
it a
then.
day, but advises that he may return with further questions. That evening, Dr. Brennan calls Kiel and suggests that the corpse is now sufficiently thawed for an autopsy to be performed. Kiel tells Brennan he will bring Steed and meet him at the mortuary. When Kiel and Steed arrive, Dr. Brennan is nowhere to be seen. Kiel calls out for him, but there is no reply. Steed goes over to the corpse on the slab and pulls back the shroud. The original corpse is gone, but in its place is Brennan, and he is dead.
Oh, gosh.
Later, Steed meets Kiel in a cocktail bar. Steed has learned that another Phoenix man is leaving Argentina and will arrive in London on the 25th aboard the SS Whitney. He has also had a minor Phoenix member, Dr. Fisher, detained at the airport and held in custody on a trumped-up smuggling charge. Steed suggests that Kiel can take his place as Fisher and Weber have never met in person. Kiel has a fortnight to learn about Phoenix before entering the fray. 2 weeks later, at Webster's, Willi is talking to Weber's secretary, Margarita. She is worried that they are both in too deep. They are interrupted by Weber, who suggests Margarita find some work to do. Kiel enters posing as Dr. Fisher, a Phoenix member sent by mutual friends. Weber is at first highly skeptical, but when Kiel mentions Kreutzer's name, he is convinced. "We have been advised of your arrival," states Weber, "and understood that you would be staying at the surgery of a Dr. Kiel. Is that not correct?" Kiel momentarily worries that he's been rumbled, but quickly recovers his wits. "Oh yes, I was able to arrange a little practice over here. I thought it would allay suspicion," says Kiel, thinking fast. Back at the surgery, Carol humours Ted, the father of the twins delivered by Kiel. She stifles a laugh as he tells her they are losing their hair. Kiel and Steed arrive shortly afterwards. Steed reveals that he had supplied Fisher's cover story to Webster, and this angers Kiel, who argues he should have been warned. Steed deflects the criticism. As Steed leaves, Carol warns Kiel that someone in the waiting room is asking to see a Dr. Fisher.
He's a
It
bit
is Willi who
arrogant,
tells Kiel he is to
Steed.
be taken to meet Kreutzer. At the docks, the cargo from the SS Whitney has arrived. Steed is in attendance supervising the operation, and this is something that makes Harry, the dock foreman, very unhappy.
Yeah, because he's
Threatens
in
a
on it.
walkout. Weber observes the altercation and decides to intervene. Just after he arrives, there is a commotion. The dockers have found a dead body in number 2 hold. It is Inez, the Argentine agent. Meanwhile, Willi has taken Kiel to Kreutzer's Harley Street surgery. Inside, a body lays on an operating table, covered by a sheet. Kiel enters and Kreutzer beckons him over, drawing back the sheet to reveal Schneider's body. "May I introduce our future leader, Hans Gerhard Schneider," proclaims Kreutzer. On the slab, the body starts to move. To Kiel's astonishment, Schneider's eyes spring open and he sits up. Back in his office, Weber is being interrogated by Steed.
He wasn't
How
dead?
can he explain the corpses found in 2 consecutive consignments? Weber suggests there must be a gang operating at the Argentine docks, but Steed
He wasn't
is
dead.
unconvinced.
He was
Weber
imported
confesses that
for a
the tragic
reason.
events have contributed to his decision to close down operations. There is not enough money in it these days. Steed seizes upon this. No, I should have thought that 300,000 Deutschmarks recently transferred into your account would have helped out a bit, Steed says pointedly. For a customs officer, says Weber, your investigations have been very widespread, Mr. Steed. He suggests that the bodies may have been dumped on the ships as a warning to anyone who inquires too deeply. After Steed has left, Weber calls Kreutzer to warn him about Steed. Kreutzer demands that Steed is dealt with along with Kiel. I want them both on that boat tonight, intones Kreutzer. Kreutzer returns to the surgery to find Willi and Schneider toasting
I like
the
Kiel
resurrection.
with glasses.
Schneider snaps at Kreutzer, who tells him he must rest. He is not yet fully recovered from his suspended animation. Kreutzer takes Kiel into another room and reveals that the game is up. He knows who Kiel is. Steed goes to the surgery to find Kiel, only to be told by Carol that he left with a patient who had been asking for a Dr. Fisher. Steed is concerned that he has no leads. However, help comes from an unexpected source. Margarita calls in at the surgery, desperate to save Willi, her boyfriend. She is not sure where Kreutzer is now, but knows that he will be taking Kiel to the docks in the evening. At Harley Street, Kreutzer has had Kiel restrained on the operating table. He has prepared a hypodermic containing the cell freezing solution and threatens to administer it to Kiel. He indulges Kiel's curiosity and reveals Phoenix's plan is to incite a world war leading to nuclear combat.
Surely Kiel
All
could just
Phoenix
take his
members
hands off
are to
like
be
that.
frozen and held in storage in a secure location in Argentina while the war rages around them. Kiel points out that atomic weapons are fairly indiscriminate. Kreutzer has an answer. A man frozen beneath the threshold of life is as good as dead. Atomic radiation cannot harm him, and when it subsides, he will awaken to a world free of all opposition, gloats Kreutzer. But Kreutzer's preparations for this audacious plan are incomplete, and Kiel's arrival has presented the perfect opportunity. For all experiments, one needs a guinea pig, Kreutzer confides to Kiel. I shall subject you to a controlled experiment lasting 1 month, during which you will be subjected to every known radiation hazard. Now relax, Dr. Kiel, he advises. Meanwhile, Steed and Margarita take a taxi to the docks. She says that Kiel is to be transported to Argentina on the SS Whitney. She implores Steed to save Willi, who she reveals was Kreutzer's first experimental subject for the freezing process. At the Harley Street practice, Kiel has been injected and is unconscious. Schneider infuriates Willi by telling him that the story Willi had been told by his mother was a lie. Willi's father did not die a heroic death in the war. He was shot in the back for cowardice in the face of the enemy. Kreutzer remonstrates with Schneider. It was foolish to unnecessarily anger the youth. Steed and Margarita arrive at Weber's office at the docks. Weber appears gun in hand. Margarita has struck a deal with him and has led Steed into a trap. Weber sticks the gun in Steed's back. They are going to the cold storage shed. Kreutzer, Schneider and Willi arrive at the cold store with Kiel's body. Weber arrives shortly afterwards and motions for Steed to go into the cold store. Kreutzer suddenly senses something is wrong. The temperature in the room is near normal, when it should be freezing. Someone has turned on the heating. Suddenly, a docker's hook reaches out and knocks the gun from Weber's hand. It is Harry, the dock's foreman. He calls out, and a gang of dockers mob the villains. Schneider draws a gun and aims it at Kiel's helpless form. One move from any of you, your friend dies, warns Schneider. Keep them covered, Willi. Willi draws his Luger and swings it slowly around the group. He brings it to rest, aiming at Schneider, and shoots. That was for lying about my father, spits Willi, as Schneider falls dead to the floor. Willi trains his weapon on Kreutzer and Weber. He will be free of them at last. Your freedom won't do you much good, Willi, reveals Kreutzer. Remember, you were my first experiment. When I examined you later, I found the living tissues were not being replaced. You will not live another 6 months. Willi is shocked and lets his gun arm drop. Steed jumps into action and grabs the weapon. He brings it to Kreutzer's throat and instructs the dockers to restrain the villains. He promises them a large bonus and asks for an ambulance to be called for Kiel. Much later, at the surgery, under Steed's watchful eye, Carol tends to Keel, who sits in an armchair, his legs wrapped in a blanket. He has been brought back to consciousness and displays no serious ill effects, but he has caught a chill. Steed reveals that there was no such man as Dr. Fisher. He had to get Keel into the organisation somehow, and that was his best solution. I thought it was too much of a coincidence, says Keel, somewhat perturbed. Steed wags a finger at his friend. Now, if you're not careful, you'll get a temperature, old man, he says with a playful smile.
Okay, so that wasn't my favourite. I don't know whether that was just because it's one of those episodes that needed the episode, if that makes sense. Like sometimes the recon just doesn't give me enough. Sometimes I find it, I don't know. What I did like was that little end shootout where people were turning against each other. I always really enjoy that in a film, book, whatever it is, especially if I'm not expecting certain people to turn. So I liked that bit. This idea that Keel they were freezing people, odd. And at the end there, it got me thinking, obviously, please don't give me any spoilers, but I just think something's going to end up happening to Keel because Steed keeps putting him in these situations without Keel knowing the full extent of things, which maybe is also a safety thing. It protects Keel from knowing the truth, but part of me thinks, is this going to end up with something happening to Keel because of something Steed has done? And that makes me a little bit anxious. I'm not saying yet. Obviously, I know I think there's a few series of the Avengers, but obviously I don't know who carries on. I don't know any of that. So that's planted in the back of my mind. Just by the way they keep, the last couple of episodes, there's been that suggestion about Steed kind of just putting Keel in those little situations. So I'd be very upset if something happened to Keel in series 1. I'd be so frustrated. I'm sure nothing happens, but I always, with shows, you expect someone to have something done to them, and I would suspect potentially Keel, because I think Keel is a really likeable character and I can imagine very popular among the audience. So fingers crossed nothing happens, but who knows? I mean, his fiance got shot in the first episode, so who knows with this show. Let me know your thoughts and I will see you very soon for episode 24.